In this video, we're going to be going through some of the reasons why Leon Edwards is an absolute hypocrite when it comes to who deserves the next title shot and what he wants in his career. We're going to go through why it deserves to be Belal Muhammad and why Leon Edwards should be ashamed of himself for even saying that he's going to move up and challenge for middleweight. And we are going to find out whether or not Leon Edwards is a decent human being by the end of the UFC 296 press conference by hearing whether or not he says it's Belal Muhammad next or the dreaded, we will see what happens. Let's get right into it. Okay, so just take your minds back and think. The year is 2021, early 2021, March of 2021 to be exact. And Leon Edwards has just had a no contest with Belal Muhammad after successfully trying to tear his eyes out. The second eye poke that Leon Edwards attempted managed to pierce the guard of Belal and tickled his brain. Belal drops to the ground in agony, and Leon Edwards moves to the post-fight press conferences with his hands held high, screaming about a victory. I am exaggerating about that a little bit, obviously, but you get my point. The fact is, Leon Edwards did go into his interviews after that Belal fight, and he was expressing how disappointed he was, but he was also talking about how he is still on an 8-fight winning streak, which he is constantly bringing up as like the third longest streak in the division or the UFC's histories. I don't remember exactly what he was saying word for word, but he was bringing up just how historical that his winning streak was. And it was. Joe Rogan was talking about how no one deserves a title shot more than Leon Edwards. Chael Sonnen was pushing for it, calling Leon Edwards one of the most unluckiest fighters in UFC history. Leon Edwards just couldn't seem to get a title shot. Then he moves on to fight Nate Diaz and does beat him, but it was a shockingly good fight for Nate. Nate nearly finished Leon Edwards. And then that famous meme started of 9 in a row. Of course, it should have been Leon Edwards. He was on a massive winning streak. It's crazy that he had not fought for a title while Masvidal had gotten 2 title shots against Usman. At that point, Leon Edwards seems to be less lucky than Tony Ferguson's head placement against Michael Chandler. Surely, at some point, Leon Edwards had done enough to deserve a title shot. And finally, what seems like against the wishes of Dana White, Leon Edwards gets the nod, takes on Kamaru Usman, their first title fight. Looks like Usman is going to get yet another win. The commentary team, Joe Rogan specifically, says that Leon Edwards just seems to be happy that he's not getting finished. And then Leon lands the famous headshot dead. Usman is lying flat on his back via head kick. He is as unlucky to have lost his title that way as Tony Ferguson's head placement was against Michael Chandler. I'm not going to do it again, I promise. So Leon goes on to fight Usman once more, and it is a close battle. Leon Edwards edges out the decision using a lot of cheating. Yeah, like an unprecedented amount of cheating. Leon Edwards wins and is now the undisputed, solidified welterweight champion of the world, and is up next. He's going to be fighting Colby Covington. In the interviews leading up to this Colby Covington fight at UFC 296, he has been saying how there is nothing that interests him in that division if he wins, and he's planning to move up if he retains the title. This is where things start to get really interesting. We blasted through that part. This is where things start to get really, really weird. The backup fighter, the #1 contender, is not someone who has had 4 fights in the last 4 years. It is not someone that is 2 for 2 in his last 4. That's the guy fighting for the title, Colby Big Mouth Covington. The backup fighter, as we all know, is Belal Muhammad. Muhammad is on a 9-fight winning streak. He has fought 8 times in the last 4 years. Edwards has fought 4 times. This is where the absolute hypocrisy is kicking in. Belal Muhammad has done more work than Edwards did to deserve a title shot. Leon Edwards sat out for a year demanding his shot at the title over and over again. And look, fair enough, at the time, he absolutely deserved it. But Belal has taken on anyone that the UFC has thrown at him. He has beaten a better quality of competition than Leon Edwards did to get his title shot. And now Leon Edwards is talking about moving up to claim champ status because there's nothing interesting in the division for him. It's just crazy. It's insane. He's really lucky that Garry is on this card to soak up all the hate, because if it was a dull card and it was just Edwards versus Covington carrying this card, the MMA media would be ripping Edwards a new hole, no lube, straight prison style. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the MMA media would be facing charges with how hard they'd be giving it to Leon, like metaphorically, of course. So the one thing that Israel Adesanya was so good at and never gets enough credit, the only person that gives Izzy credit for this is Chael, is Izzy was so good at setting up his next fights quickly in the cage or at the press conference for that weekend while all the cameras were still on him. And this is what Leon Edwards needs to do. He needs to have the exact same energy if he beats Colby Covington. He should encourage Belal to get into the cage. He should talk about Belal constantly at the post-fight press conference. He should set that fight up as quickly as possible to create a media narrative around himself, which will carry his name forward all the way until the next time that he fights. It's what Israel Adesanya did every single time, and he was phenomenal at it. Otherwise, he deserves the full wrath of the MMA community for being an absolute hypocrite. The fact that he even mentioned moving up at this stage while Belal is right there, it's quite frankly, it seems cowardly. Like, Belal deserves it so much more. He even has a better winning streak than Edwards did. Edwards got his title shot off Nate Diaz, yeah? And Nate Diaz nearly KO'd him. But like before that, it was Gunnar Nelson, RDA, Donald Cerrone, and they were all by decision. Like even Conor McGregor's bum shoulder can knock out Cerrone. Belal had to fight Gilbert Burns. He was promised a title shot for that fight because it was a short notice fight. He didn't even get that title shot. Then he beat, before that, it was Sean Brady. Look how good Sean Brady just looked. Before that, it was Wonder Boy, all right? Now, imagine if Leon Edwards, the point striker, had to take on Wonder Boy. Leon Edwards is lucky that he didn't face Wonder Boy in his come-up. On this channel, I have talked about Belal's best chance at getting a title shot is if Colby Covington wins, because Colby Covington versus Belal can be such an amazing narrative, and narratives are what is maybe the most important thing in selling a pay-per-view and selecting the next champion. But on the flip side of that, we, the fans, also create a narrative, and we should be watching that post-fight press conference very, very closely. If Leon Edwards beats Colby Covington, all this Garry energy needs to be redirected. If you are still watching the video at this point, maybe I've entertained you in some way. Maybe I've given you something to think about. If before you go and click on your next video, you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there. It means so much to me, like small creators like myself, and just see how you go with these videos popping up on your feed. You know, if you don't like it in the future, you can always unsubscribe. That is totally fine. And let me know down in the comments, am I being too harsh on Leon Edwards here? Or I feel like we're not being harsh enough, you know? Like, what do you think should be the sort of backlash for Edwards if he doesn't call out Belal next and he does win? Or even for Colby, like Colby is doing the same thing, talking in every direction, you know? Let me know down in the comments, too harsh, fair enough, Belal's just pay-per-view poison. There are many opinions on Belal. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that sub button for me. And of course, I will see you all in the next one.